Jimin's health deteriorated drastically. But what grabbed more attention wasn't just Jimin's sudden decline, but the expression of regret and deep sadness from Jungkook, who was seen crying for the first time since joining military training. What really happened? Why does Jungkook feel guilty? A seemingly normal Thursday morning turned into a day full of emotional turmoil for all soldiers in the 5th Division. When the medical inspection siren rang, the soldiers moved with military discipline speed. However, one scene broke the order. Jimin looked weak, slouched, and had to be supported by 2 other soldiers toward the medical room. Jungkook, who is usually cheerful among his peers, looked gloomy and silent. His gaze was empty, his steps heavy, and for the first time, there was no laughter, no jokes. An internal source stated that Jimin's condition had shown signs of decline in the past few days. He looked tired, often lost focus during training, and even felt dizzy several times after intense physical activity. Yet, Jimin refused to rest.
I'll fine.
Don't tell the instructor, Jimin said softly but firmly to Jungkook the night before the incident. Jungkook, now filled with deep regret, could only recall those words while staring at his friend lying weakly in the military hospital bed. Regret came too late, and this time, it was tormenting. Jungkook realized he should have been firmer, more alert. He shouldn't have relied on Jimin's willpower as a measure of health. He should have acted, forced his friend to rest, or at least reported his condition earlier. But it had all happened. Jimin now had to undergo intensive treatment after collapsing during the morning roll call. His body temperature rose sharply, his blood pressure dropped drastically, and his pulse was unstable. Doctors cited symptoms of extreme fatigue and dehydration as the main cause. He didn't want to burden anyone, said one medical officer who declined to be named. Even in that condition, Jimin was more concerned about how Jungkook would be burdened if he had to rest. It's amazing and heartbreaking at the same time. In the tense and anxious atmosphere, Jungkook refused to return to his barracks. He chose to stay in the hospital waiting room, sitting silently, staring in one direction, the room where Jimin was being treated. Even when the nurse asked him to undergo a medical checkup, Jungkook only nodded without speaking. His focus was only one, Jimin. When he was finally allowed to accompany his friend, no words came out. Just a hand grip, teary eyes, and occasional heavy breaths holding back sobs. I failed to see what was right in front of me, Jungkook said softly to one of the medical staff who approached him. I was too busy with the schedule, too confident that he would always be strong. Now, I just hope he recovers quickly, and I can make this right. This situation triggered a swift response from the 5th Division's leadership. Commander Han Jae-mon officially announced a reassessment of all soldiers' schedules and training intensity, especially Jimin's and Jungkook's. This decision is not because of their celebrity status, but because they've shown the true meaning of resilience, dedication, and solidarity, said the commander in front of all troops. Cheers and applause echoed, but Jungkook didn't stand. He remained seated by his friend's bedside. Outside, BTS fans, ARMY, were anxious. There was no official update from Big Hit Music, no post from official military accounts, and all information was restricted. However, the news of Jungkook's tears had spread among military staff. He didn't cry loudly, just sat quietly, and his tears fell. No words were needed. Everyone knew he was deeply regretting, said a medical staff member. Furthermore, a senior staff member from HYB was reported to have contacted the military personally. We were asked not to cause public panic. But he was very emotional, just said one thing. Make sure they recover together. Don't separate them. Now, Jungkook's only hope is Jimin's recovery. In a rare moment, a nurse asked him if he wanted to return to the barracks to rest. Jungkook's answer was brief, but it hit the heart of anyone who heard it. My training is here, next to him. This story isn't just about 2 big names in the global music industry. It's about unwavering loyalty, about regret that stems from love and responsibility, and about the lesson that even the strongest people need time to stop and be cared for. Jungkook can't change what has happened, but now he's turning this moment into a calling to become a guardian for his friend. As of now, Jimin is still under medical observation. The initial prognosis states that if recovery goes well, he can return to light training within 2 weeks. Jungkook will remain by his friend's side, waiting, watching, and praying that time can erase the regret he feels so deeply. Only time can now answer. Will Jimin recover soon? And will Jungkook be able to forgive himself for ignoring the obvious signs? But one thing is certain. Behind the stars who shine brightly on stage are ordinary humans who feel, get hurt, and love in silence. Jungkook and Jimin now show the world that true friendship doesn't only shine under the spotlight, but appears strongest when the world looks away. Are Jungkook's sadness and Jimin's condition fact or sensation? Let's reflect together after news of Park Jimin collapsing during military training and Jungkook crying in deep regret spread widely. A bigger question arose in the public's mind. Did all this really happen? Or are we being pulled into a dramatic narrative that may not be factual? It's undeniable that the public, especially ARMY and BTS lovers around the world, were deeply moved by this story. Many reshared it, wrote emotional comments, and even made reaction content on TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter. But have we truly verified the origin of this story? Is it possible we're just getting carried away by a narrative that may not be accurate? The sources of information about this event mostly come from social media, anonymous testimonies, and fan speculations widely spread across various online platforms. Some TikTok videos show a crying clip allegedly of Jungkook in the military hospital, while fansite Twitter accounts mentioned direct observations from outside the military complex. But let's pause and seriously ask, is there any official statement? Any medical confirmation from the authorities or BTS's agency? Until this article was released, there's been no official statement from Big Hit Music or the South Korean Ministry of Defense openly acknowledging that Jimin was hospitalized due to extreme fatigue, or that Jungkook cried while accompanying his friend. If so, why are we still talking about it as if it's an absolute truth? Are we trapped in a heart-touching narrative, but one without a solid foundation? In today's fast-paced digital society, we are all vulnerable to what is called confirmation bias, the tendency to believe something just because it aligns with our hopes or emotions. Jungkook and Jimin are known to be very close, and the public certainly enjoys seeing them care for each other. But this also opens the door for certain parties to create dramatic stories to gain sympathy, attention, or even media exposure. So, how can we distinguish between facts and carefully crafted fictional narratives? We invite you to reflect on every part of this story critically. For instance, if Jimin's condition is truly serious, why is there no statement from the military, which is usually quite transparent in handling members' health? If Jungkook was really seen crying in the medical room, why is there no visual proof or credible testimony from internal sources willing to verify the event openly? Why does this story seem too perfect? In crafting an emotional narrative that stirs public sympathy, we must also consider the possibility that this narrative, intentional or not, emerged as a form of narrative engineering that could boost BTS's name visibility during their military service period, when their public and media activity is very limited. If that's the case, then an equally important ethical question arises. To what extent is it acceptable to exploit fans' emotions to maintain popularity? Of course, as fans, we can't simply ignore news about the idols we love. But we also have a moral and intellectual responsibility not to fall victim to unclear sourced information. Is it possible that this narrative is used to preserve the emotional image and care between BTS members? Or even further, was this story created to maintain ARMY's emotional attachment during the members' military hiatus? We're not accusing the story of being a hoax. But precisely because of the immense emotional impact it brings, we must be more critical in processing information that touches the most sensitive parts of ourselves. Emotions are strength, but can also be a weakness if not accompanied by reason and data verification. Therefore, we invite you to join the discussion. Are you sure this story is 100% real? If so, what is the strongest proof you have? If you doubt it, what steps can we take together to demand clarity from the relevant parties? Thank you so much to everyone who has watched this video. We truly appreciate your time and support. We hope that the good things you've seen here can inspire you, and anything bad or less meaningful can simply be left behind. Let's continue to grow together with kindness, understanding, and positivity. Once again, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for being part of this moment. See you in the next video.